Welcome to the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast, and I'm your host, Dwayne Kerrigan. With 35 years in business and close to 30 ventures across 12 industries, I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Tod, thank you very much. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here.
Awesome to be here.
Yeah, so you're out in Kelowna, BC, right?
I'm in beautiful British Columbia. I am, yes.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Tod Melnyk, who is the COO of Martell Media. And Martell Media is a business that's owned by a guy named Dan Martell, who actually, I have not met Dan actually, but we have some cross friends here that work together with him over the last few years, and we just never have actually crossed paths. But you're running Dan's media business over there, and essentially, what Martell Media does is produce and distribute online social material and content. And you guys have tens of millions of viewers a month. You're running events, on social selling and social streaming. He's got an AI venture business that does AI incubation. He's got a coaching business. And he's written a book called Buy Back Your Time, which I actually just had a copy sent to me. I don't know randomly how I got it, actually, to be honest with you, but it showed up at my door. I think it was through one of our friends, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So I'm actually excited to read that book. And I mean, Dan's story is amazing. I'm interested in hearing your perspective of working with him, but he stole a car at 17, got arrested, went to jail, had a prison guard kind of, show him that he was more than what he was being. And then he was in a juvenile correction facility and then got into a computer and learned Java. And then he had multiple tech startups and, has sold those and exited those for hundreds of millions of dollars and done extremely well for himself. But Tod, your background actually is from the brewing industry, which I'm kind of interested in hearing about, because that to me is like a dog eat dog world of business that everybody wants to be in the brewing business. And so super interested in hearing about your history in that, and then coming on with Dan and running the media business. And so excited to have you on the show. And I know we're going to get into some really interesting conversation.
The cool thing about, you described a whole bunch of stuff that we do in our business, but if you step back, we have sort of one North Star, which gets me fired up every single day. And that is really to inspire people to be their best versions of themselves and share their transformation with the world. Ultimately, that's what we do. And we do that in different ways, sort of what you just described, but that's what we do. And so that's the North Star. If I look at what Dan does, I'd say he's probably humanity's biggest cheerleader. And so that kind of dovetails nice into that sort of overall North Star that we aspire to do every single day.
Yeah. And listen, and that was one of the things that this kind of fell into our laps here to have you on the show. And it's kind of why I started the podcast. This is not for me. I don't know if you know the background, but when I started the podcast, this is not something I monetize. I operate businesses. We have a handful of businesses that we operate, and I did this because we want to help young entrepreneurs, they don't even have to be young, but we want to help entrepreneurs to get from where they are to where they want to be through the power of story and sharing, guys like your story and what you're doing over there with Dan. And so I think this is going to be such a great conversation with what you guys are doing and how you're inspiring people to be better. And so thank you for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, great. It's kind of funny. I was just actually who you met. So Nick, which just helped me with the tech. So I was just giving him a high five because about a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, he moved from his hometown Moncton to Kelowna here. He was working with us, but he was working remote. He wanted to come to Kelowna, sort of be part of what we're doing every single day. And so one of the things that I do is I meet with every single person on my teams, and I meet with them every single quarter, and I go through, where they want to be in the next 12 months, where they want to be in the next 5 years. And that's everything from cars to houses to whatever it happens to be. And so he just told me, he goes, he just got back from Moncton. I'm asking him how his trip went. And he's like, oh, by the way, he goes, I'm moving into my own condo at the end of the month. And that was super cool to me because that was something that he had on his list that he wanted to get done. So he had roommates, and now he's super pumped that he's moving into his new place. And he had this, it was on his vision board. It's got lake views. But the reason why I say that is because I watched somebody like Nick, who's on our team, and he transformed over this period of time. He's reaching his goals. Like, it lights me up. I said to him, "You just made my fucking day." I said, I'm so happy for you. And so whether we do that with, inspire people to be their best versions of themselves, again, it's clients. But for me, it's really about our team, because that's what we do. And that's what I'm closest to. And that's what allows us to do that we can do every single day to all the people that are out there around the world.
I mean, listen, so I'd love to dive into that a little bit, because I have a similar philosophy in regards to, I look at, my customer is our people, and for me, we have several hundred employees. So for me, it's more like on the executive team, management levels. But those are my clients, and our end customer are the customer of my clients, which are people. And so it's really cool to hear that you actually have that. So one of the questions actually I just want to ask you about that is that discipline of meeting your people every quarter as a COO I personally found that to be a challenging thing to accomplish with everything that starts growing on inside of operations and growing your business. And I'd love to hear the discipline of how you kind of execute that to make that a quarterly discipline.
So I do a couple of things. So like anybody who reports directly to me, I do weekly one-on-ones. So that's how that cadence goes. And then those people who report to me, and then those who don't, I meet with them every single quarter. Again, it's not talking about business, it's talking about them and where they want to go. Because ultimately, if they can get what they want, then I'll get what I want, and then so on and so forth. So that's kind of how that conversation works. But I mean, in terms of discipline, I mean, one of the things that I am pretty good at is just being very consistent and disciplined. Now that does come with some downsides as well too, but if I look at one of our core values, and it is build the people, and that is our core value that we have in our company. So for me, it's a priority, and so it gets blocked. I have Wednesdays, for example, is my people day. Every single Wednesday, could be from interviews, could be having lunch with somebody, one of our team members, whatever. But that gets just scheduled. It's a people day, and as we move on through the quarters, my assistant, she just books them, and it's in my calendar, and they don't get moved. It's one of those big rocks that, yes, it could easily, let's just push that down, and because it's not it's not urgent right now, but it's one of those important but not urgent tasks that I just I'm not gonna miss.
You were making some serious comments that resonate with me. A couple of them are one-on-ones, big rocks. That's some Stephen Covey stuff from back in the day. Who love that man. Actually, I spent a lot of time with Stephen Covey down in Salt Lake City when he was coaching and teaching. I used to go down to the university there, and but I was back in my 20s, I guess. Important versus urgent. So I'm going to start with the one-on-ones. What, if you don't mind just sharing, because I think that, these kinds of processes, and I don't think actually I've had this conversation with anybody on the podcast yet about that specific thing, one-on-ones. I'm a big believer in one-on-ones. Um, how do you handle them? What does the process look like inside that conversation? What's your outcome? If you don't mind sharing a little bit.
It's actually quite interesting. So the one-on-ones never deviate. So I always have those in my calendar. How I do those one-on-ones, I kind of sort of evolve and change them a little bit, just because if I go back to what I know I'm good at, consistency and discipline, right? But because of that, I always want to make sure, am I getting the value, whatever that activity is? Am I getting everything I need out of it? It could be as simple as I go to the gym every single day. Am I getting the value out of that session, or am I just going through the motions, right? So as I look at one-on-ones, and I've been tweaking them, but ultimately it comes down to it's a list of things that I have that I want to discuss with the person, and then it's a list of that they have. So for example, it would be start with people. Is there anything that I have on my list around people? Anything I have around results and or money, depending on sort of who they are. Anything on systems and processes, and then anything on, call it, projects. So if I just make a list of things throughout the week that I want to talk to that person about, and I bucket in those categories, and I'll go first. Here's my list. We'll discuss it, and then I'll turn it over to them, say what's on your list, and then we agree with the action items, and then away we go.
Right.
The other way that I've been sort of tweaking a little bit, this is sort of relatively new, is what have they accomplished in the last 7 days, and what are they going to be accomplished in the next 7 days, next time we meet? So that forces a little bit of, it's not a checkbox thing that we go through. It's more of like, tell me what you did and what you focused on to make sure that we are making progress in the next 7 days. So that's something that I've recently started to play around with.
We actually use we use a thing called the 515 that I got from my mentor Keith Cunningham, and it's got four questions on it. It's like, what were the 3 things that you achieved this week? What were the 3 things that you didn't achieve? What is the one promise that you'll make for the business this week? And what coaching do you require? That's kind of like our week, like that's a weekly thing that they have to do. And then we do one-on-ones on top of that. But
yeah, I think that's great. There's always a good conversation. I think one of the things that I like about what you just said, which I also ask, is what do you need from me? At the end of it, I'll ask, what do you need from me? And or what obstacles are you facing? And what do you need from me? Right? Because ultimately I like to work on outcomes. And so if somebody has a revenue target or whatever they're trying to do, there's an outcome that I'm looking for. And there's a way that there's the accountability on inputs, fill this out, do that. But more about is, if the outcome is this, I'm holding accountability. Walk me through how you're going to get there. Right. And so if you're on or off track, I want to know what you're doing to get back on track. And if there's obstacles or roadblocks that's there that I need to help you with, then you need to let me know so that we can continue on that path. So it's not necessarily about, I find it too, we can get into somebody's reading a number off a spreadsheet or something. I was like, well, I can read a spreadsheet. I don't need that. I need you, the person who's accountable for whatever the thing you're doing, help me with how you're going to get there and make sure that the math, so I'm comfortable that you're moving there. And then again, whatever I need to do to help you to move that forward, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I just popped into my head, but I'm curious how you handle this. Is when you have somebody and you're sitting in front of them, whether it's in a one-on-one or whatever, it looks like that's probably the format, sounds like, for you, but you're sitting in the one-on-one and you ask the question, like, what do you need from me? And they're like, I'm good. And you're like, yeah, I know you're not good. Like, I know there's something that you need from me that you're either afraid to ask or unaware. And I'm curious kind of how you, in your style, what have you found that works well to kind of draw that out? The reason I'm just want to frame this for the audience is the reason why I asked Tod that question is because it's the conversations that are often not had that become the big misses down the road. And so we as leaders, either because of time or because of internal conflicts in ourselves or whatever, we don't want to kind of open Pandora's box because we're afraid what's going to come out of it.
Before I answer that question, I think it all starts with culture, right? So our culture, for me, the business is really culture. Like, culture is everything for me. It's our living, breathing DNA. It's how we operate our business. It's how we hold our standards. So within our culture, we're very direct in terms of feedback. And so the more that I can cultivate that ability for us to have those conversations, the person feels okay to ask me something that maybe they don't want to, because they know I'm there to help them. Now, the feedback that I give them maybe doesn't, I mean, I'm always respectful, but maybe if you're direct feedback, you're going to get it and you can go, oh shit, you know, but you can't take it personally, because that's not what it is. And that's the culture that we create. And some people love that and some people don't. For me, it starts with that culture and the ability to have those conversations and direct feedback, like point blank. Like, we're not sugarcoating stuff, because really everybody knows here that we're pushing ourselves to our potential, right? Whether that's personally or business, not necessarily a target. So we could be growing our business and we could be high-fiving one another, but at the end of the day, is if we don't think that's our potential, then we're pushing to our potential. So I have to have those abilities to have those questions. And you're right. Somebody could say, hey, I need nothing from you. I'm good. I'm cool. All right. I'll let it go for one time. And if I'm sitting back the next time and we're still in the same place, then I'm going to have some discussions and say, all right, like, we just passed 7 days. You said you're okay. Nothing's really changed. What are you pretending not to know? Right? Different ways to ask different things that I can get there. But it really starts with the culture. Like, it does.
It's a great answer. I mean, I love the question, what are you pretending not to know? Like, that's an epic question, man. I'm actually writing it down. Sorry, 1 second. That's awesome. I'm putting that one in my question. I have a list of questions on my phone that, like, I probably have 100 or more, but I'm definitely adding that. You talked about culture. There's a couple of things I want to get back to here, but you did talk about culture, and I'm just curious, what are the culture points for your organization, or how do you guys frame culture at Martell Media?
Yeah, so we have 3 values, and one is already mentioned, which is build the people, because the people build the business. Ultimately, it's just not me or Dan; it's the entire team. And you don't need to have a title, a CEO title, president title, whatever it is, and to be a leader. Everybody needs to lead. So that's number one. The second one is be the example. So we are always pushing one another to be our best. That's our best personally and our best in business. And this probably allows people to maybe ask some questions or not be shy if they're having some difficulties, is that, listen, if we're pushing everyone to be their best, you are going to make mistakes. I mean, you cannot help. I mean, I make mistakes all fucking day, right? But it's net new mistakes, right? So that's, be the example, push yourself, make sure it's okay to fail, but make sure you learn quickly and don't make that mistake again. And then the third one is a simple scale. So this is my favorite one when I'm interviewing people, which I do a lot. I always say this, I'm like, listen, this is my most favorite one. It's the most difficult one to do, but it's simple scales, which means, anybody can complex the shit out of the business. What we're always looking to do is solve problems in the most eloquent way, but also, which means the most simplistic way. So if I always get this kick. People ask me, most people go is like, how big is your team? How many people do you have? I'm like, that's the last thing that really excites me.
Yeah.
I'm always like, how can I have the smallest team with the most brightest people ever? That to me is hard to do. And that what makes me excited. So I go as, okay, what do we have in our business that we can eliminate today? And I'll look at every single quarter, I'll look at our business, could be our products or whatever, and go, oh, can we remove this, part of it or piece of it? I don't know. It seems like it's maybe redundant or shouldn't be there. We'll remove it, and then we'll know quickly enough if we need to put it back, right? Or I go to automation, and obviously with AI, that's the next thing. And then third thing is, if I need to go hire somebody, I'll go hire somebody out, but I want to make sure that they're the very best I could get. And so they have to be good to get on the team. They got to be great to stay on the team, which is back to be the example, always pushing yourself to be better.
I like that. You got to be good to get on the team. You got to be great to stay on it.
I'll have there's a process that we have for interviewing and for people to come into our companies, and Sometimes it'll be, well, how come you're saying no to that person? I'm like, I can't see that person. I can't see myself having a conversation that I need to have with that person, whether they report to me or not. If it doesn't feel off, I'm not moving ahead with that person because I know how we roll, and I want to make sure somebody can say is, oh, I love to be pushed. I love to be, to grow and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, do you really? Like, let me just have this discussion with you, because what you think it is, it's probably, tenfold or double what you think it is. And those that want to be, whether you want to be part of a high performance team, whether that's a business team, whether that's an athletic team, you love that stuff. Like, that's what you want. It's like, give me the ball. I'm there. And then there's others who could come in and they're sort of there, but they kind of float in the middle. And then one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to say, holy shit, this is not for me, I'm out. Or, we're going to make the call and say, unfortunately, hey man, you're a great person, but you're just not going to work here. And we make those decisions really quickly.
Yeah. What does that look like for you guys? Like, do you guys do that by committee? Is that individually sourced? Is it, do you have your people do it for their direct reports, or how does that look like for you guys?
So every single month we go through every single person, and it's really red, green, or yellow. And if somebody, typically nobody's red because we get to it really. If they're yellow, then we're having a discussion about it. It's like, okay, what's going on with that particular person? Do they have the knowledge, all the information, all the knowledge? Have they been trained properly? Yes or no? Or is it more them that we need to help them with? So then if it's a yellow, we'll have a conversation with them. Here's what I need to see. Here's how I can help you. Then those conversations happen weekly to make sure that person moves on to green, because ultimately that's what we want if we believe that person could fit well in our company. And then if somebody's yellow and they're not there, then it'll be maybe 30 days. And then if there's no significant improvement, then unfortunately we'll have a conversation to part ways.
Do you think, in your experience, like, do you find that 30 days is it, do you think it's sometimes too much? Is it just the right number? Is it like, because it's so many people wait. The reason why I asked the question is so many people wait like 90 days or 6 months, and
that's
it's
way too long,
hoping for, some epiphany to kind of occur and like an act of God, and it never happens.
I mean, I think if somebody's waiting 90 days or 6 months, it's because they are not comfortable having the tough discussion with somebody. And so they're hoping that person will get better or they'll leave or whatever, but they're not comfortable having that discussion. Back to the, direct feedback, I'm good to have those discussions as long as you have those discussions in a respectful way, because ultimately it has nothing to do with the person. Like, everybody's a cool person. Like, I call us kind warriors. This is what I want. I want kind warriors. The warrior part is we do whatever it takes ethically and all that kind of stuff to get to our potential. But we're not going to be assholes about it. We're not going to be ding-dongs. We're going to be kind humans about it. And so it's a hard thing to do, but that's what it is. It's kind humans. Let's go kick some ass and let's do it. But we're kind humans.
Right.
And so if I or a team is having a more tougher discussion about somebody who's maybe not at the level that we'd like to see them at, it comes from a place of love. Like, it really does. It's like, I'm not shitting over you. I think you could get to here. This is what I want from you. Here's what I'd like to see you change or have that discussion, whatever's going on. And maybe, I don't know, because maybe there's something challenging in the personal life that's going on that you need to understand. So there's always that art of the leadership and trying to figure that out. But yeah, I think you have to be confident enough and comfortable enough to have those uncomfortable conversations. And I think if you have that, you're not waiting 6 months or 90 days. In my humble opinion, that's way too long.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think sometimes that you hit it the nail on the head. I think is, business owners or leaders are, when they're waiting that long, they're really hoping somebody's going to make the decision for them. They're going to opt out so that they don't have to have that conversation. But it's having those, I don't know if the word's fearless conversations, but it's, having the conversations with courage, with some level of courage, I think I find.
Yeah. And it's It's actually really interesting. I mean, it's something that I've continued to learn, and I wasn't like this early in my career. But when you come from all those discussions from a place of empathy, right, and from a place of kindness, if you will, and when you have those discussions, and let's say it's unfortunately that the person, you're going to part ways, anybody that I've actually done, I'd say, from exited our company here is they still work out with us. I still say, hey, you're still welcome to, come to our founders hike and, come to the media, like, because it has nothing to do with them. Like they're great humans. And so I think if you can figure that out, which again, it's a work in progress for me. I'm always, but I always come from a place of empathy, and that's where it starts. And then I'll have those discussions going forward. And ultimately those people they're smart people. They're going to go do amazing things. It just doesn't work well for us here. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work well for somebody else. I mean, it's proven all different people have had X amount of jobs and then are left, and then they go somewhere else and they flourish and kick ass. And so that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, no, and 100% you're right. I've always looked at it as like it's you're providing people freedom. If it's not working in the current condition, then you're providing an opportunity for more freedom in the future because something's not clicking. But you made a comment about you weren't like that earlier in your career, or some context to that. I'm curious if we don't mind backpedaling, like. I mean, you come from an industry that, and I've not been in that industry. I've been in a lot of industries, but I haven't been in the brewery industry. But I'm just curious, as a leader, when you made that comment, what did your leadership look like, whatever years ago, and how has it transformed, and how did you transform as a leader? And I mean, obviously, there's been some transformation, and to jump into an organization like Dan's is, that's I put you in high regard with what you're doing, what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah. I mean, earlier in my career is just like I say, I started off in the beer business as a sales rep, and I was working my way. I was getting sort of promoted every 2 to 3 years, and I was moving throughout Canada, and I was very young. And so I had people that were older reporting into me, and I could never figure out, or maybe uncomfortable at the time, is how do you have a relationship with these people and yet actually trying to hold them to, to performance. And I couldn't figure it out. I just didn't know how to do it. And so what I ended up doing is taking a hard line on pretty much everything. And so I would just go in, and it was not a lot of who Tod is. It was just about, okay, this is where we are. This is about business. Let's just go. And so it was effective, but it was a kind of a one-trick pony, if you will. And then it became to a point that I wasn't authentically me. It's like, I'll give you an example. At the time we did a lot of 360 reviewing and things like that. And I would get something that fed back to me is like, he's aloof. I don't know who he is, all that kind of stuff. Right. And I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, I don't get it. I'm trying to be nice or whatever. But if you have me doing, very consistent and disciplined, and somebody who's really amiable, like that doesn't work really well, right? And so I couldn't figure out how to do that. And then over time, with different situations, and I think feeling way more comfortable in who I am, I have the ability to now, I can, joke with you, go out for dinner with you or whatever it is, but I also have the ability to have those discussions with people when it comes to business. So I've developed how to do both of them. I'm not perfect at it. I continue to work on that, but I think it just comes from experience, and probably, as you get older, you become a little bit more comfortable with who you are. And I understand those situations now and going, okay, I can do that, or I watch somebody else do it. Oh, that's how they do it. And so it's been an evolution, and I'm still working on it.
So I'm really intrigued about this because these are the journeys, these are the stories that I think we're all about on the podcast, which is where people resonate. It's like, oh shit, I was there too. So if you don't mind, I'd love to explore this with just a little bit, like beyond age, right? As we can all say, like, oh, as we get older, I'm like, yeah, I totally think that's true. But I think also there's opportunity and a possibility to shift consciousness within oneself. And so I'm curious for you, what was kind of the unlock, like, or what, if you kind of reflect back on it, what would you say would be kind of some of the distinctions or the turning points where you kind of went, yeah, that was an unlock for me, and there was a shift and then another shift, and if you don't mind.
I don't know if there's one particular thing that I would say. I know that the more that I sort of went internal, right? I spent a lot of time just doing internal work, and that is a function of a whole bunch of things. That's a function of a marriage gone wrong. That's a function of some bad businesses that didn't work out. That's a function of a whole bunch of things ultimately, and then so you go internal, and I just spent a lot of time doing that, and whether that was I've done therapy. I have a really solid group of people that I allow them to influence me, and so they provide really good direct feedback to me, and so I think it just became evident to me that I had some gifts and skills that people would reflect to me all the time, but I just never really believed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know if that makes sense. And so I would just kind of laugh at it or be, oh, well, that's interesting. And I never really took stock in that and go, okay, well, that's kind of a little bit of my strength, and that I need to lean into that. And then I just started stacking different habits on top of that. Again, I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but
No, Tod, it's total sense. Like, so I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit of what I heard, and I might like slap in a little bit of my own language for the listener. But it's like, I heard the word going internal, some failures and some reflection on failures, whether it's in marriage, your intimate relationships, your business, all that kind of stuff, which I think are all tied anyways, in my opinion. But you talked about some coaching. You talked about, and I'm putting my own words on this, so I don't want to misrepresent, so please jump in if I am, but dismissing of your own strengths when people would like kind of compliment, like, you do well. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, and then just creating a stronger belief over time in your abilities and who you are. And did I capture that?
yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, it's, you learn the most through your challenges, through your failures, I believe. And so I'm a very positive person. It doesn't mean I have bad days or all that kind of stuff, but I always look at, okay, what is this trying to tell me or teach me? And sometimes I don't get it right away, right? It's just like, why is this still going on? And then somebody says something, you see something, and it hits you, and you go, fuck, that's what I do. And then it's an automatic shift. It just, I think I don't know if everybody faces that, but I think we do, is if you pay attention to those things and you're always sort of trying to get better every single day, I think then it kind of hits you. It's at the right time. And when you receive that in the right time, then it kind of unlocks the next level for you. That's how I view it.
Yeah, no. Well, and that was one of the questions I kind of had, was you use the word internal. And I wanted to just kind of see, like, for you, what does that mean? Because it, like what you had just kind of talked about, is like, I call them taps on the shoulder. There's like a tap on the shoulder, and then another tap on the shoulder, like an event happens or situation happens. And then it seems to another one similar to it, and then another one, and they keep growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden, the bigger they get, you pay attention to it, and it's like, oh shit, until it's a punch in the face. And then you're like, oh shit. Okay. Now I learned from that one. But you had kind of said, I went internal. What, if you don't mind sharing, and I don't want to, but well, I'm happy to go super deep, to be honest. But what does that mean for you? Because I hear the word internal, like, but somebody could hear the word internal. And it's like, yeah, I go internal too, to a bottle of whiskey, like every Friday night after a long week. And, and I come out of it Sunday morning type of thing. Like, so I'm pretty sure that's not your case, but I want to really explore for you, what did internal look like, and what did you pull out of the experience?
Well, I guess like internal for me is when I say that, it's probably like I'm a spiritual person. And so I love to learn about the universe and sort of all that manifestation and all that kind of stuff. I'm fully into that. And so because of that, you could say do I read business books? Yes. But I also love to understand the mind and how all that works. Because so a great book is called Worthy, and it's a really cool book, and it dives into a whole bunch of this kind of stuff. And it's really about, when I say internal, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I would say there's confidence, okay? There's self-belief and there's confidence. Confidence goes up or down, probably depending on your external environment. The foundation I believe, of being internal and kind of doing what you need to do is self-belief. And that is a muscle that I continue to work on every single day. So no matter what happens with my confidence, what's going on up or down, if I believe that I'm worthy of anything, then that allows me to do what I need to do. And so I work on that. When I say internal, it's really about my self-belief, my self-worth, what I think that is. It's a muscle that I need to do daily. And because I could just go through and say, it's no different than somebody gives you a compliment and you just slough it off. How about just saying thank you? That's a way of accepting somebody giving you a compliment, and it's giving you a deposit in your self-belief. And there's books that I read. I reflect all the time. I'm constantly reflecting, going, okay, I'm really good at now is more like self-awareness. And so if a situation comes, I kind of have this, I don't know, it's like I'm overlooking sort of the whole what's going on, and I have a self-awareness about, okay, is that a me thing that I like? What is this situation teaching me about me? And how can I show up better? Sometimes it takes two to sort of do that dance, but I always look at it from myself first.
Yeah, no, I love that. That book was called Worthy.
It's called Worthy. Yeah, it's right. I think this is it here. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the author's name? Sorry. Jamie Lynn Kern. Okay.
Jamie Kern Lima.
Jamie Kern Lima. I just like to make sure like we highlight those kinds of things, because you never know what comment book triggered people are going through. And this is a huge topic right now, I think, for people, in this day and age with social media and this feeling of keeping up with the old feeling of, and I don't know how old you are, but I'm 54 years old. And so keeping up with I was born in a town of 3,500 people type of thing. And, keeping up with the Joneses was like literally the Joneses 2 doors down. Like that was the size of the community. But now as we look, it's like, it's funny, like so many things get highlighted in social media. And we were, a couple of years ago, we were in Morocco with my mastermind group. And we went out to the deserts, and, it was really interesting to me because while we were there was this guy doing social media stuff, and they would have like 4 or 5 different cars. They'd have camels. They had a helicopter there. And he would change into one set of clothes and then get in this car and then do some cool shit. And then he would change into another set of clothes and get into the helicopter. And it was like, they were creating different days, all doing this big shoot. And people actually think like this is how the guy lived, but he was just renting like a half a dozen cars and a helicopter and some camels and stuff like that. And, it's complete bullshit. And so, and then everybody elevates to this place where they think they have to keep up with that stuff, where they think they have to be something different than actually just being who they are and accepting themselves and loving themselves. And, that is kind of what that made me think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also comes down to, just on sort of that theme is like, there's, being grateful for what you have, right? So I'm a big believer on every single night. I always, I'm grateful for something. It could be the latte that I had or the conversation I had with my daughter or whatever it happens to be. It's typically sort of a smaller thing. But that also doesn't prevent me from inspiring that I want more, because it's not about wanting more. It's about pushing myself, because I believe I can get to it. Like I have this 10.0 version of myself. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I know there's more to me. So I'm like, I'm grateful for what I have and what I just happened for this day, but I'm still pushing myself to be the best person I possibly can. Now, what comes out of that? I don't know. Could be money, could be whatever it happens to be, but it's a byproduct of me pushing myself to that. That's kind of how I do it. And so I just focus on that every single day is like, okay, what can I do better? Like I missed that opportunity or I fucked up there. Okay, today let's get after it and let's tweak that. Let's do that. And so I'm always doing that. But I'm also grateful for where I am and confident in who I am and where I'm going. But that doesn't mean I make mistakes and I'm still learning, because that's what life to me is. You're always learning. Like that's what I get up every single day is like, what? Oh, wow. I just made some progress. Oh shit. I was there before. Now I'm here. That's really cool. And you just every single day you're in it and you're just doing the thing.
Dude, it's like, to me, it's like it's the progression of mastery. And then there's no definition to mastery. Mastery never ends. So as long as I'm on this earth, it's like, I think a lot of people think of like, I have a friend who's got like the worst relationship with money. He feels like if he has too much of it, he's greedy, he's evil, it's like, and he literally like, he'll make money and then all of a sudden he'll figure out a way to either lose it or give it away, or it is mind boggling to watch the cycle. And, where I think of, progression and development and if money comes from it, great. But ultimately what I find comes from it is that you live a life of an example for others, so that, and I don't have to boast about it. I can just be the example where, people look over as like the greatest compliment I ever get is when I'm with my wife is, we'll be out for dinner and, a bartender or a waitress will be like, wow, the way you guys interact together is amazing. And it's like, that to me, is to me the epitome of leadership. Is I'm not trying to tell people how to live their life. I'm just living my life as an example, and I fuck it up every single day. But yeah, it's great points that you're making. You actually made a point. I wanted to circle back to it, because there was a tone in your voice when you said it, and so I didn't want to get away from it, and so this is probably a good time, but. You said that you were disciplined, and then you said, but there's a lot of downside to discipline. And I'm just curious, what are those for you, or what is your experience with that? And so that, because we have a lot of listeners they pride themselves on their discipline. So I'm just curious on what you meant by it.
Yeah. I knew you were going to come back to that, but damn.
You're like, this asshole doesn't let anybody go.
Jeez. No. So I obviously, I think it is a super strength of mine. I also have the ability, I'm not being boastful, but I have the ability to handle a lot, right? Through my consistency and discipline. It's a super strength. However, I'd say there's also, if I put a mirror to my face, or sort of with their strength, there's always some weaknesses that you have to sort of be mindful of. And so in my situation, I'll speak only for me, is that as I grow as a leader and I run bigger businesses, my challenge is to make sure that I'm building the businesses through other people. And so I could easily do more work or more whatever. I work hard, but I can do more because I'm so consistent and disciplined, and I have a way that I can do it. But then I'm not working through others. I need my team needs to do the same sort of thing. And it's easy for me just to do it, if you will, versus actually having them do it. So it's a leadership thing that I'm quite frankly still working on to get better at, because that strength is also my weakness that it's a roadblock for me. Right? So if I keep on doing what I'm going to do, I'm not going to get to the next level where I want to be as a leader, because I'm still doing some stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Because I'm not allowing my team, I'm not working through my team. So that's one.
Yep.
The other second one is, and I don't know if it's just me or maybe it's, it could be a limiting belief. I don't know, but you can be consistent and disciplined, but if you need to, like, I need to make sure that energy every single day is into those things that I'm doing. So for example, I mentioned, like, I go to the gym, basically I'm doing some kind of a workout every single day of the week. Let's say if I'm at the gym 5 days of the week and I'm doing my workouts, well, I need to make sure that hour that I'm in there is worth that hour. And I'm not just going there because it says in my calendar from 5 to 6 a.m., go to the gym. So I just need to make sure, or I add something into it to make sure that now I've got this good habit. I've got to add something else to it so that I'm going to another level. And so that's kind of the, I don't know, the downside. That's just the opportunity that I see as leveraging my strengths, right? Let's leverage them, but I need to tweak them so that I'm not, they're a strength, not a weakness.
So you cannot seriously make this up. When you came online, Heather and I were in a conversation, and then you kind of like popped up, and we kind of were just finishing it, but we literally we're talking about this exact topic. And so, I love the conversation, and I have a couple of questions around it in terms of the downside that you were talking about at the very beginning, which was, you can do more, you can handle more. It's maybe easier if you just do it versus have it. This is a very common thread, I think, for business owners, leaders who have, started their career off early days, kind of start from nothing, drive it out. And then they fall into this habitual process of this discipline and exercising that discipline, and then falling into a story or creating a story where they say, well, I'll just do it myself because, I can handle it, and I can, I can do it better than the next person, or whatever their frame of the story. I'm not saying that's your story, but there's a multiple threads of a story that we can create based on our greatest strengths. And so how do you deal with it on a daily basis or a weekly basis to try to overcome? Because you guys have an organization where, it's hard to scale if that's your strategy, or if that's your downside of things. So I'm curious, like, how does that work for you? And even in your role, because you've been with Dan for what, like, is it a year and a half now?
Yeah, just under 2 years.
Just under 2 years.
Yeah, coming on 2 years. Yeah.
So what's that look like for you? And I'm just curious how you're coping with it and the struggles that you experience, so that our listeners can go, yep, been there, doing that right now.
Yeah. So the way that I have been working through it it goes back to what I was talking about as outcomes, right? So it's very easy for me. Like, what I'll do is, if I'm meeting with somebody, say somebody who reports to me, and we're trying to solve whatever problem it happens to be, I could easily say, okay, I'll do that, or I'll help you with that, or whatever it is. And now what I do is I default to, no, the outcome is this. As I said earlier in one-on-ones, the outcome is this. I need you to show me how you can get there. So I'm holding them accountable to to that outcome. I'm not holding them accountable to the inputs, to the outcome. So that demonstrates to me if they can actually do it or not. And so those are the conversations that I have about, do they have the ability to think through whatever problem they're trying to solve or whatever it is? And if they don't, then that's probably not a great fit, right? Because the more that I go lower, and it doesn't mean I don't inspect things, but the more if I'm day to day in the lower stuff, obviously I can't go to where I want to go. I'm not going to be able to scale the business to the next level, and it's pretty evident. Like you can see it, right? And I feel it. I'm going, why am I? And it's more an awareness, I think, for me is like, why am I doing that? Right? It's also a little bit about, is to be really real, is what's the value that I bring then, right? So you could be proud, as I think entrepreneurs and all that kind of stuff, they're proud of, oh, only I can do it. If I don't do this now, what value do I bring? And there's huge value that you bring, because you're actually, you're having different eyes on the business, which is going to allow the business to grow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are stuck in exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And,
oh yeah.
And so what would you say to them about, like, or what were the steps that you take? Like, it sounds like, I mean, I love the question. I need you to show me how you can get there. Because it's easy to accept, like, oh yeah, I'll pick this up for you. I'll do that. Oh, I've done that before. Yeah, that's an easy one.
Just
I can
do it
tick that
way.
off quick. Yeah, no problem. Or hey, this is what you should do. Da, 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 da. And we get stuck there. And so how do you unstuck it?
So here's the thing. I mean, I think high performing person has a set of standards. So I have a set of standards that I live my life by, right? And also have a set of standards for the business. If I don't hold those standards, that means every time I allow myself to maybe let somebody off the hook or me to do it, that means I'm not holding myself to the standard that I want. And I'm not prepared to let that go. So it's a conscious decision to say, no, this is the standards, and I'm going to keep these standards no matter what. If my standard is consistency, discipline, pushing to results, the way I do, then I expect everybody who's working on the team to do the same. And so I starts with that conversation. Okay, this is what you're accountable for. Show me the outcome. Show me how you're going to get there. I'm here to help. What I can do is solve problems for them or remove roadblocks. That's really what I can do. So if I have people that can show me how they can get to a specific thing, whatever they're doing, and they identify the roadblocks, which I can remove, I can do that, then that's magical. As soon as I got to go down and do the work, then, I'm not amplifying myself, right? And so I think Elon Musk, which I think he does, when he goes to his different companies, he's basically going in there and he's going to solve a problem. And then he's moving on to his next company, right? So if you can solve a big problem every single week, 52 weeks out of the year, man, you're going to move your business forward.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, Dan talks about a lot is, get somebody to do it. If they do it at 80% of what you would do, that's still fucking amazing. And then what you do is you keep pushing your standards higher, so that 80% then also becomes higher.
Right.
Like that's really it.
And then through scale, you also get 4 or 5 people who are working with you to do that. So now all of a sudden you're scaling at a monumental level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I love it. Do you ever run into the issue, like, where your standards, or you use the word like conscious decision on the standards, but where standards unmet turn into judgment? Does that ever fall for you? And I'm projecting, like, I'll just say it to the audience. Like I do it, like, and I do it a lot less than I used to, but it used to be I would say it was a significant problem for me a decade or more ago. I've gotten way better at it, but I still feel myself sometimes getting drawn to it. My judgment towards them. So, like, if they don't meet the standard, like that, if I have a high standard and then they don't meet it, do you ever fall into that place where you judge others for not meeting your standard?
I mean, I look at the standard as, yes, we have a standard, and I always look at progress. So myself or whatever, are we making progress against that standard? It kind of goes back to, pushing yourself to be, the 10.0 version of yourself. If you're making progress to move there, then I think that's really good. If somebody is not making any progress, then that's maybe judgment comes in. But I don't know. We're very clear on what we expect and what we won't, and we'll make fast decisions on people because we know that they just don't fit our culture. They can be super bright, super smart, go back to it, but they don't fit our culture. It just won't work. I think it's kind of interesting if somebody leaves people's companies, right? You do an exit survey. And the person will go, oh, I don't like this. They should change this. I would do this, blah, blah, blah. We're like, well, how about we actually go to the people that are here and love doing what we do? What do they want?
Mm-hmm.
Not somebody who just left. I want to know the people that are here because they're here for a reason, because they love what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. I want to know what they think. I don't really care what somebody thinks that they just left, because then I'm lowering my standards.
Yeah, and they also have a story about why they left.
Of course,
what happened in the process, and I'm in totally agreement with that one for sure. So I'm curious. You guys do a lot of coaching, and I don't know. Like, are you highly involved, less involved in that side of the business? I'm not 100% sure how the setup is, but my question was going to be around, either business owners, like what do you guys find in the coaching, which is the biggest people's roadblocks to scaling their business, scaling themselves? What do you guys find is like the thing that kind of comes up, the one or two or three things that are most frequently pop up?
I mean, I think every single business has different, as they're going through different revenue, there's different ceilings that they hit. So, if you're just starting off your business, you're a one person, you're doing it all. You get to a certain level, then it's like, oh, geez, I can't do it all. Right. So then you need to hire somebody. And we always say you need to hire an executive assistant. Like, that's your first hire, because that is taking task off you that you shouldn't be doing, that allows you to continue to grow the business. So there's things about delegations, there's systems and processes, obviously, as you get going. And then as your business scales, there's about leadership, what kind of leader you need to become in order to attract the people that you want, right? Because sometimes, you may not have the money to go hire sort of the A players that you want, but there is if you can create a vision and a North Star of why people want to come, and then there's on the backside of that there's monetary or whatever, that's really important. And then there's no different to what I just talked about. As you get to a higher level too, it's like, okay, well, you need to make sure that you're functioning at such a high level that your team is driving the business, and you're working through the team so that, between yourself and the team, you've got the strategy and execution and the inspection of the business, on a daily basis. So yeah, I would just say it's probably early days, delegation, hiring some people, learning to let go a little bit. Then it's making sure you have the foundations, the systems, and the processes so that you can scale. So it's not Tod. It's actually, we have a system, a playbook that's there. So it doesn't matter who it is. That's the playbook. Go do it. And then, leadership, I think, is the next level. And those would be the three.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Have you ever read the book, Rocket Fuel? I don't know who the author is.
I have, yes.
Have you? Yeah. Yep. Integrator and Visionary.
Yeah. EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, is where it comes from.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, how does that, since we're talking about the coaching stuff and, what Dan's created and all that kind of stuff, and, how you fit in is like, would you say that that's a very good, and we can frame this for the audience, but in terms of like Dan's the visionary, and then you're the integrator of kind of what happens as the CEO. And
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we always describe it is he's the talent, I'm the business. So, and it's true, right? Like Dan, we want Dan focused on what Dan does best and lights him up. And ultimately, the more that he can do that, that's going to benefit our business. And then myself and the team needs to make sure that we take all that and continue to build the business. So yeah, that's how we describe it. So a little bit of visionary integrator, but he's a talent, I'm the business.
And the reason why I asked the question is, like, I'm really curious what you guys are doing. You're 2 years almost into the role. How has it worked in terms of offlining things from him to you, and to really kind of leveling out that, he's the talent, you're the business, visionary versus integrator, all that kind of stuff. Like, for those of the people that we have listening that are in and around that area where they need to start looking at, oftentimes the business owner becomes the blockage, and there comes a time where they need to offload some of their things in order to scale and grow and focus on what they do best, and the business gets handled. And I'm just curious kind of how you guys have done it. What's the process? What's been some of the learning lessons over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with sort of the mission, right? You both need to be aligned for the mission, right? So, because that's why we get up every single day. Go back to want to inspire people to be the best versions of themselves, right? That's the mission. And so if we're aligned on whatever, that's the mission for Martell Media. If there's a different company, like as long as you're aligned to that mission. And then the way that we roll is no different than, so we have our weekly syncs, which is our one-on-ones, same sort of process that I had talked about. We talk daily, texting, no matter where somebody is. And we both run really fast. So we're aligned to the mission. We both run fast. There's a saying that we say is we don't like to walk, we like to run. So we run fast. And, I'd say in terms of values, we don't take ourselves seriously, but we take what we do seriously. So do we joke around? Do we have fun as a group all the time? We have tons of fun, and, but we know where we want to get to. And so, as Dan continues to grow and he pushes himself every single day to get to be his best, I need to do the same, because if he's growing at a level and I'm not, then there's a big gap, and then that's an issue, right? If I'm growing and my team's not growing, then that becomes an issue. So that's why us as a team, we have trust with one another, sort of to make sure that we can have discussions, hard discussions, direct feedback. Nobody takes it personal. Dan can give me direct feedback. I can give Dan direct feedback. So it works both ways.
Yep.
And he'll ask me all the time, how can I show up for you better? That's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah. So he's leading by example, of course, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, and in regards to so you have alignment of the mission, you have some weekly syncs. Obviously, like you guys are scaling and you're doing some pretty cool stuff over there, which I would actually love to get into. And especially I'd love to chat about some AI things and where you guys think the future is going and how that's going to impact business. And I mean, this is the world that you guys are living in right now, and coaching and developing and working on. So I'd love to jump into that. But from an operations perspective and the handoff through the experience, I'd love to kind of give any lessons that you guys have learned in terms of the handoff to a COO or a person that you're entrusting the business to, which is hard for a lot of owners to let go of because it becomes their identity. And so what have been some of those kind of hands-on learnings for you guys?
We get alignment on sort of, business metrics, let's say revenue or followers or whatever it happens to be. So we outline that, we get alignment on that. So it's kind of where we want to go, let's say for a 12-month plan. And then myself and our executive team, we build the plan, because then it becomes our plan to go execute against it. But, Dan and I are aligned of where we want to go. And then we have checkpoints, right? So He'll jump into our leadership meetings. So I do our executive leadership. I do that once a week. And then he has the opportunity. He'll jump in on those, maybe 15, 20 minutes. If he has some questions or something like that, he'll ask, or if he wants to give us a message, what he's thinking about the business, then he does that. And then he goes about his thing. So he's always there. But it's really, once we get alignment where we're going, it's over to us to go execute it. And now if I need some assistance from him, then I'll ask. And when I have my one-on-ones with him, it's no different. Where, let's talk about people, let's talk about results, let's talk about projects. And then he has his list, I have mine. So it's no different than I do with my team. At the end of the day, is I think that a founder or a visionary, they're always going to be involved in the business. Like that's just, they may have a passion of what they like. So for example, maybe this founder loves sales. So they're going to get more involved on the revenue or the sales side. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not, I don't take it personally. It's like, hey, you know what? You have a different set of eyes than I do, and you're going to make it better. Go for it. Or, hey, instead of asking that question because you didn't have any context, can you ask me that next time? Like, so you just have to have a really good relationship that you can have those discussions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks very much for listening to that great conversation with an amazing leader, operator with just an incredible organization with what Dan Martell's doing over there and how they're helping people and support them in their mission. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Look for next week on version 2 or part 2 of that conversation with Tod. And we actually get into some really interesting conversation about a massive vision that they have for the next 12 months. You don't want to miss it. It's an amazing conversation. So tune in next week. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate you so much, guys. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you being with us. If you found value in the show and know a friend or coworker who could benefit from this conversation, please share the link via text or on social media. Remember, each share creates a ripple effect of knowledge and inspiration. And if this podcast has supported you in any way, please support us by clicking the follow or subscribe button. It helps us to improve the delivery of top quality content moving forward.
The views, information, or opinions expressed by guests during the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Dwayne Kerrigan and his affiliates. Dwayne Kerrigan or the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast is not responsible for and does not verify the accuracy of any of the information contained in the podcast series. The primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified professional or specialist before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.